I'm a 40-year-old man from a big family, the second eldest of 9 siblings. My older sister, Lila, is just a year older than me. There's a 6-year gap between me and the next sibling, with my mother having children every couple of years after that. Being the eldest, Lila and I were always responsible for caring for our younger siblings and handling household chores. Adults often referred to us as Lila, Opie, and the kids, as if we weren't kids ourselves but rather extra adults in the household. We were homeschooled, so we were always at home. My role included waking up early, preparing breakfast for the younger ones, and getting them started on their schoolwork or activities before tackling my own studies. Lila, a night owl, handled nighttime duties, especially with the youngest, as there was always a baby in the house. Lila and I managed most of the household tasks. We split duties like cleaning the kitchen and doing the laundry, which was a massive job. I took care of guy tasks like mowing the lawn and taking out the trash. As I grew older, I passed some of these chores to my younger brothers, but I was still responsible for ensuring they got done. When I got my driver's license, I ran errands and drove the kids to appointments or playdates. I can't count how many times I shuttled them to doctor's visits or social events. I often tucked the younger ones into bed and read them stories. Back then it felt normal, but looking back, I realize I was more like a second parent than a sibling. As teens, Lila and I had some freedom to hang out with friends as long as our chores were done. We didn't have cell phones back then. If we wanted to go out, we'd just inform our parents, and they were fine with it as long as we were back by morning. I moved out at 20 but still spent a lot of time at my parents' house, and one of my younger siblings was almost always at my place. One of my brothers, Caleb, has lived with me since he was 14 because he clashed with our mom. When Caleb was 17, he got into a car accident and called me instead of our dad because I was the one who dealt with emergencies. Our parents often stressed how important it was for Lila and me to help with the kids because they were so busy with their church ministry. I can't recall how many times I dropped everything to handle something because mom or dad were busy counseling someone. I hope I've painted a clear picture of my childhood without going on too long. Fast forward, I didn't date much, but at 25, I met Mira and fell deeply in love. We married within a year. My younger siblings love Mira. She's an amazing cook and loves hosting, so our home became a favorite gathering spot. They started calling her Mama Mira, a nickname they still use. We've been married for 15 years now and have 2 kids of our own. My mom and Lila didn't take to Mira at first. Lila and Mira get along fine now, but my mom and Mira still don't. I never understood why until recently. It's because they think Mira took me away from them. As Mira and I built our own family, I spent less time helping my parents. My dad initially liked Mira, but their relationship has soured over time. He's made comments over the years about me neglecting my duties. Once he called me about one of the younger kids who had argued with mom, saying, "You need to sort out your brother's attitude. He disrespected your mom, and you're going to make him apologize." A few years ago, Mira and I set firm boundaries with my parents, saying we wouldn't raise or discipline their kids anymore. My siblings are always welcome at our house, but we won't let my parents use us to fix their children's behavior. My parents didn't take it well. About a year ago, Mira injured her foot and couldn't walk for a while. Just as she was recovering, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, which progressed to kidney failure. I've had several surgeries, with another one coming up soon. It's been a rough year. Not only have my parents refused to help, but they've made things harder, like promising to watch our kids and then canceling at the last minute, usually for something ministry-related. My sister-in-law, who lives out of state, recently had a baby, and my mom has been staying with her for 6 weeks, helping out. My sister-in-law calls Mom a blessing. My dad has been visiting them every weekend. This frustrates me because my mom refused to help us even for a single night when our youngest was born. Sorry for the long post. I needed to vent. This weekend, I was talking to another sister about how I don't understand why mom and dad treat me differently, even compared to Lila. It hit me that they resent me for starting my own family and not helping them raise their kids anymore. Part of me is relieved to finally understand, but part of me is heartbroken. I'm anxious about my upcoming surgery and wish I had parents to talk to, but I feel like I don't, just people I co-parented my siblings with. Update 1. Last night, I talked to Mira about it. I said something like, "I've realized my parents resent me for starting our family and not helping them as much, and I think you've been trying to tell me this for years, but I was too thick to see it." We were in bed, and she leaned over, patted my head and said, You're so precious." I laughed for probably 10 minutes. It was a great emotional release. Many of you commented on how wonderful she sounds, and she truly is. I can't express how much I love her. About Lila. My parents were upset, but all 7 of my siblings backed me up, and so far, they've respected the boundaries. Going no contact. Some suggested cutting off contact. I don't want that. Despite their flaws, I love my parents. My kids love them, and I don't want to take that away. They're great grandparents when they're around. I don't think my parents are bad people. They had a vision of a big family and a big ministry but didn't realize how much they burdened Lila and me. I've talked to them before about how wrong it was to put so much on us as kids, and they've apologized. Calling them out at church. Some suggested confronting my parents at their church. You don't know this church. They'd praise my parents for putting God and ministry first. These ultra-religious folks are intense. My surgery is in less than 2 weeks, so I'm focusing on that. I'll put this issue with my parents on hold and decide what to do later. Thanks for your comments. They've helped me process a lot. Update 2. Thank you to everyone who reached out to wish me well. My surgery was last week, and it went better than expected. The past year surgeries and treatments felt like they were just keeping me alive, but this kidney transplant feels like a step toward normal life. It's been tough and painful, but not as bad as I feared, so I can't complain. Mira always says she doesn't get enough credit for her humor, so she was thrilled that so many of you laughed when she called me precious. She said, "I like these Reddit folks." This all started during a conversation with one of my sisters. Let's call her Six, since she's following this and would be annoyed if I used her real name. Six had a fight with our parents, and I told her how Mira and I set firm boundaries with them and suggested she do the same. She did, and they didn't take it well. This led to talks with other siblings, and both 5 and 9 also set boundaries. This also prompted other siblings to confront our parents about how they've treated me during my illness. The day before my surgery, Lila called to check on me, and we ended up talking about our childhood. We hadn't spoken much in years, but I think we connected on that call. It was eye-opening to talk as adults and revisit old memories. She's been in therapy for years, and her therapist sometimes stops her to say, "Lila, you just breezed past some heavy stuff. We need to unpack that." For a long time, I blamed her for how she treated me when we were young, but I now see she was just a kid trying to cope. I have more compassion for her now. We've been texting a lot these past few weeks. My parents visited after my surgery, but we didn't discuss family drama. My siblings say they're struggling to accept these new boundaries. I hope one day they realize all 8 of their kids are disappointed in them and strive to be better, but I'm not holding my breath. They're blaming it all on spiritual attacks, as usual. Mira and I decided we'll maintain low contact with strong boundaries. With such a big family, going no contact would be messy and lead to awkward situations. We also talked to our kids, who want a relationship with their grandparents. While I don't expect my parents to change, I'm confident they'll respect our boundaries. My perspective on them has shifted. I no longer feel I owe them anything. We'll keep contact because it's best for my family, not because they deserve it. I was referred to a family therapist and have an appointment next month. Update 3. I've tried multiple times to write this update, but I either can't find the words or end up writing a novel about my health. I'll do my best to keep this coherent. In May 2023, shortly after my first post, I had a kidney transplant. Recovery has been my main focus, but I'll keep this part short. Things went well at first, and I recovered faster than expected. Then I caught a stupid virus, which led to minor setbacks that snowballed into my body rejecting the new kidney. The holidays in 2024 were rough, with multiple hospital stays and treatments. The treatments were tough but worked. My body now shows no signs of rejection, and the virus is managed. Maintaining my health and kidney will be a lifelong process, but I'm stable and feeling better than I have since getting sick in 2023. I mentioned how Lila and I hadn't spoken much, and when we did, we kept our distance. After my first post, she reached out, and we talked about our upbringing. We both recently learned the term parentification, and discussed it. We started talking more after bonding over shared trauma, a new concept for me. Her family visited late in 2023 and stayed for weeks, giving us plenty of time to talk. I used to judge her harshly for things she did as a kid, but I now see she was just a child under immense pressure, trying to raise a bunch of siblings and desperate for control, which she took out on me. There were lots of tears and apologies on both sides, as I wasn't always kind to her either. We're closer than ever now and talk a couple of times a month. My family is visiting hers this summer, and our kids are excited because they've grown close too. As for my parents, I'm not sure how to approach this part. My first post came from conflicts with them and how they didn't support me during my kidney issues. My siblings and I united and set firm boundaries, which they didn't like. Someone commented, "It sounds like you and your siblings are bullying your parents into being better people," which might be the best way to describe it. Before my surgery, I had a direct conversation with them. I wrote down my main points to stay focused. I wasn't angry during the talk. I just listed examples of how they not only failed to help but made things harder for my family when I was sick. I told them I didn't need or want their help because I didn't trust them. Something about that, plus all my siblings standing together, seemed to resonate with my dad. He didn't say much or defend himself. Over the next 6 months, they checked in weekly by text. If I felt up to it, I'd invite them over, which they did a few times. They offered to bring dinner once, and we accepted. They didn't push when I wasn't up for it. This was all part of the boundaries I set, which they respected. Over the year, things started to change. I suspect someone showed them my post. My siblings knew about it, and I think the comments calling them out had an impact, so thank you all. They left their church, which shocked us all. Mom called several siblings, asking for specific examples of how she'd let them down, and listened without deflecting. The youngest sibling moved out, which changed their dynamic. Things seemed to have improved in 2023. My parents started spending more time with my kids and attending their events. I noticed they were trying and told them that if they wanted a real relationship, they needed to engage with my kids' interests, not just plan things they wanted. My dad found a hobby my oldest loves, and they've bonded over it. My mom and youngest found a place they both enjoy, and they've gone together. It's not perfect, but they're building a healthy relationship. Mira and I are cautious but hopeful. As for my relationship with them, I've emotionally detached. As a teen, I read Ender's Game and related to Ender, feeling like the adults set him up to fight alone. I felt that way most of my life. No backup, just me and then Mira. I've built my own support system with friends, and that's enough. I'm happy my kids have good grandparents now, but I'll never have deep talks with my parents about my life. On tough days, I have Mira and a few close friends, and I feel incredibly lucky because that's more than many have. My spouse betrayed me with my long-estranged sibling. She concealed the child for 7 months, then attempted to sue me for $1,800 monthly in child support. I hadn't spoken to my sister in nearly a decade when my wife invited her over for a meal. I returned from work to find her there, Lydia, seated at my dining table, chuckling with my wife like they were old friends. My stomach knotted the instant I saw her. She hadn't changed much. Same sly grin, same cutting wit, same false warmth that deceived everyone but me. I stayed silent. I didn't want to stir trouble. My wife, Sarah, gestured me over with a warm smile, as if all was well. "Guess who I bumped into at the library?" she said cheerfully. We started chatting, and I thought, why not mend things? Mend things? With the woman who got me thrown out of our family home at 17? Lydia was always the favored one, untouchable. I was the troublemaker. The one with the bad attitude. The one who never valued what he had. She stole from our parents, lied about it, pinned it on me, and they believed her. Every single time. When I finally walked away, I vowed I was done. No contact. No visits. Nothing. For almost 10 years, I kept that vow. Then, without consulting me, my wife reopened a door I'd sealed shut. I pulled her aside after dinner, keeping my tone steady. "Why would you do this?" "She seemed nice," Sarah replied with a shrug. "I didn't realize it was that big a deal." That big a deal? I was nearly homeless because of Lydia. I juggled 2 jobs to finish high school. Now she was drinking coffee in my home like none of it happened. But Sarah pressed on. "Maybe she's different now. Maybe you both are." Trauma does that. It makes you question your own recollection. Makes you wonder if you were the problem. And when the person you trust most, the one who knows you best, urges you to try, you start to think they might be right. So I tried. I gave her a chance. Lydia started visiting more often. always with small gifts. Always complimenting Sarah's cooking. They grew close quickly. Too quickly. I'd come home to find them deep in conversation on the sofa, wine glasses in hand, like lifelong confidants. At first, I was uneasy. Then I grew suspicious. I noticed things. Hushed talks that stopped when I entered. A shift in Sarah's behavior, cooler, more judgmental. And Lydia? She seemed too at ease, like she was claiming territory. Still, I held my tongue. I didn't want to be that husband, the distrustful, paranoid one. They were sisters-in-law, weren't they? Maybe this was good. Maybe they were mending what I couldn't. Then one night, I came home late from a work function. The house was dark. Sarah left a note on the counter, out for a walk with Lydia. Back soon. It was nearly midnight. Something in me broke. I waited. 1 hour. 2. I texted her. Where are you? No reply. They returned around 2 a.m., laughing like schoolgirls. I pretended to sleep, but I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. I heard my name. The next morning, Sarah acted normal, kissed my cheek, brewed coffee. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Until the picture. 3 days later, I was rummaging for batteries in a drawer when I found it. A small photo hidden among manuals and receipts. A newborn's picture. Not just any newborn. Wrapped in a hospital blanket, time-stamped 7 months ago. I stared at the date. Did the math. 7 months ago, Sarah said she was staying at her mother's for a week. Said she needed a break. Said I'd been too stressed. I never questioned her. I never thought to. Until now. At first, I told myself it couldn't be hers. Maybe Lydia had a kid. Maybe it was someone else's photo. But the more I studied that baby's face, the more I saw it. He looked like me. Same nose. Same jawline. That faint birthmark near his left eye? I have the same one. The date on the back aligned perfectly with the week Sarah vanished to clear her mind. My hands shook. I waited until Sarah returned. That's when it all unraveled. The sudden distance. The late-night walks. The phone turned face down. Lydia moving nearby, by chance. I'd been played, methodically, cruelly. Betrayed not just by my wife, but by my own sister. They'd orchestrated this. The next morning, I called my attorney. I didn't confront Lydia. I didn't give Sarah another chance to explain. There was nothing to say. I filed for divorce, moved in with a friend temporarily, and began untangling our finances. That's when the backlash hit. Sarah texted me constantly. Can we talk? I messed up. He doesn't mean anything. Funny, he meant enough to have his child. Lydia stayed quiet. Until she didn't. A week later, my mother called. Why are you doing this to your sister? She demanded before I could speak. It hit me then. They knew. They all knew. She's your family, my mother said. You're acting like she committed a crime. No, I said. She just ruined my marriage. She made a mistake, she snapped. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. That baby has no father now, and you're playing the victim. I couldn't believe it. My mother, who barely acknowledged me growing up, who dismissed Lydia's lies and called me too emotional, was now painting me as the bad guy. For refusing to raise my sister's child with my soon-to-be ex-wife. I hung up. I blocked them all. But the guilt came anyway. Sarah's family reached out next. Her aunt called, saying I needed to step up and at least pay child support. For Lydia's kid. I asked. No, she said, like I was dense. For your wife's. I laughed. She wasn't my wife anymore. And she wasn't acting like one when she was with my sister behind my back. The next week, I got served papers. Sarah filed for partial spousal support. Lydia had moved in with her. Both were jobless. And somehow, I was supposed to fund their lives. All because I'd worked hard, stayed disciplined, and built a stable life. That's when I decided I wasn't just walking away.